Good morning. Hello, hello. It's about 7 a.m. Well, it's almost 8, and I was not planning on streaming. But, however, I was given a challenge. Before I start that challenge, I'll say hi to a few people. I see YK Har in the chat. I think I owe you some PayPal dues. I just remembered. I was in Mexico, but I got the email for offer spill. How you doing? Um, Co-pilots here, Rohirrim. So the iceberger cannot sleep. That's what he said. You know, one of the mods, one of our tier 3 favorite Aussies, if not the favorite, can't sleep. And what I said is, you know what? I can probably get you to sleep. I can probably help that insomnia. So my goal, I'm going to play a 30-minute game here. I'm going to put on some tunes and I'm going to put a few people out because I'm pretty sure I can do it. I used to be able to do it. I've only tried with women before, but I think I can do it with the guys. And it's a great tier 3 benefit. I'm going to play some rapid chess. I'm going to just talk as I normally do and put on some music that I use to fall asleep. I'm curious if this works out. So I think maybe like 5 or 10 minutes without typing means they've fallen asleep, or we've scammed you guys. One of the two. It's 7:45 a.m. here. Yeah. Alrighty. If anybody else is ready to take the challenge, let me know. I didn't plan on this, but I do think I can put a few people to bed. Even though I just woke up. It's not going to be my best work. Alrighty. Alrighty. Iceberger, you ready? Anybody else? It's a 30-minute game. Yes. I'll talk about the moves. Good luck. Alrighty. Should I play something a little slower against e5 or maybe the King's Gambit? I think a nice King's Gambit will do the trick. It's gonna do two things. It's gonna wake some people up, and it's gonna put some people out. The people that are calculating are gonna wake up, and the people that don't want to deal with it are gonna fall asleep. So after f4, I'm looking at my opponent. They're 1200. Hopefully not too booked up here. And this opening is still playable for most levels, so if you're looking for something really sharp against e4, e5 once in a while, I'd consider it. Most of you guys are too young to remember this, but I think around 2009, around the year 2009, Magnus Carlsen used the King's Gambit and won a key game in Bulgaria, if I remember, the MTEL Masters against Wang Yu, who was, you know, around top 10 in the world at the time. So it was before most of you guys were born, but that was a classical game. If I am remembering correctly, which I think I am. So Magnus has played it. It's got the seal of approval. All right, e takes f4. Let's go with, I think, knight f3 and bishop c4 are the moves. Go with bishop c4. I'm going to go knight f3, but sometimes when you play bishop c4, players like to respond with queen h4 check. And instead of playing g3, which would be a problem, black can just take, you can go king f1. And Everybody knows about the dad bod shuffle, hopefully. But in this case, it's considered a good dad bod shuffle. The queen after goes to h4, king f1, then that f3 is going to come with tempo. Among other things. I'm going to make somebody in the chat fall asleep. That's the challenge. I'm going to accomplish that. I'm going to make a few people fall asleep. I'm just warming up though. We're just figuring out what we're going to do, where the pieces are going, how to catch my opponent in the trap. The iceberg, are you still here? If you are, I need you to write in chat and confirm that you are indeed trying to sleep in Australia. You're under the covers. You're naked under the covers trying to sleep. We need to visualize somebody struggling through insomnia. Yes, I am trying to sleep. It's 1:18 a.m. and I am nude. Oh, perfect. Thank you. Thank you for the confirmation. Alrighty. Now it begins. So queen h4 check was played as expected. It's a very tempting move. We're not going to play g3 because of fg3. And so king f1. That's pretty elementary. Just one line I want to give you is if you could play g3, fg3, and you make some move like, I don't know, net f3. Black's not threatening to take here again, or that's not their main threat. Their main threat is when they take on g3 is to play g2 check, hitting the rook, as opposed to taking the pawn and hitting the knight. But we're going to go king f1. King f1. I want to go knight f3, followed by d4. Bishop takes f4 would be great after that, and then hopefully at the end of it, white is left with a promising center. Yes, if you are trying to sleep and you're taking this challenge, you better be on your phone. That's better proof. That's a really nice line, Jan Christian. It's easy. I can see how somebody misses that now. It's not the most common pattern that the g6 square is vulnerable like that. Okay. So bishop c5 played. We're not going net f3 because of queen h2 checkmate. Now that the bishop's covering that square. So I think the next move is fairly intuitive. We can't go knight f3. My other move I wanted to play was pawn to d4. Blocks the diagonal and yeah, defends against checkmate while developing other pieces. So d4. Now I think we're in good shape. This is why the bishop c4 line is tricky, because it does bait people into queen h4, and That's a risky line for black. Keep it simple. Let's go knight f3. As I said, I mean, I want to win back the f4 pawn because if I can do that successfully, white's going to have a very comfortable space advantage with the 2 pawns in the center and a lead in development in terms of pieces developed. The one thing you might be wondering about is how can I get my king out? And once f4 is gone, it's possible you can even play king f2 because there's no real pieces around that can threaten white's king. But we might be hoping for the move queen g4 after knight f3. And then we have our patterns with bishop takes f7 check followed by knight e5 winning the queen. I think queen h5 is more natural because it covers f7, but I could see somebody falling for this. Everett, if you're trying to sleep, stop texting the girls in the chat. You gotta let me give commentary. You gotta take your hands off the phone. Queen h5 is not forced. You could move your queen back to e7 or d8. Either way, not only bishop takes f4 is going to be possible there. Queen f6 is also a move. But I might consider after a move like queen e7 to play knight c3. And try to continue harassing the queen while developing pieces. But this position definitely looks good. And you know what we're doing right now? You know, I'm playing at 1200. I'm trying to help some people fall asleep. But also, I'm going to win this game. And you want to start off your day in a good mood. It's not even 8 a.m. here. Find some poor 1200 in the rating pools and attack them. Start your day off strong with a win. Queen e7. Okay. So knight e5 is one option to go for the throat instead of the move I proposed, which is knight c3. The line I'm working on right now is knight f3 to e5, knight h6, and now either f6 or d6. So knight e5, sorry, I missed the move. Knight h6, defending f7, bishop takes f4, hitting the knight and developing, and then d6 or f6. But the move that I think will give black more problems is if I go knight c3, because once knight d5 comes into play, I think that's going to be extremely cramped. On the other hand, will my opponent find knight h6 after knight e5? That's a good point. I mean, I want to assume yes, but so bishop takes f4 is a move that I was considering as well, because after bishop takes f4, if queen takes pawn, we have the idea bishop takes f7 check, and the king cannot recapture because of knight g5. The move I'm more worried about is if the king just slides over. It's not a forcing variation. Not a forcing variation, and I really do value these two center pawns more than winning back the f pawn. So I'm gonna go, I mean, knight e5 is very tempting, but the more pieces developed can't hurt this initiative, so I'm gonna go with knight c3. It develops a piece, comes with a potential initiative. And now bishop takes f4 is available without hanging the e4 pawn. What do you think about that, Aiden? We're going to get a nice center. We're going to get a good piece development. Bishop f4, queen d3, rook e1, and the pawns are going to roll down the board. So if g5 is played right now, which is one of the only moves that can defend the f4 pawn, then white is probably in a good position to play h4. Ooh. h4 has a couple of ideas, and I like all of them. You're activating your rook if you ever get to play h takes g5, and getting a rook involved early is very valuable. I'll have a very nice file. But if g4 is played after h4, then we're going to get knight e5 or knight g5, which is a move we were already exploring, but with tempo. So h4, g4, knight e5 hits f7, f4 is hanging. That looks very pleasant. But we're going to take our time here. We're going to take our time. We have to enjoy this good position. Let it simmer. Good morning, Chulam. We're trying to help a few lads fall asleep. Are you one of those lads? Would you like to explore the King's Gambit with me under the covers? You know, metaphorically. Okay. Besides h4, I mean, if I wasn't playing h4 here, I'd probably play knight e5, because now that the g pawn is moved, knight e5, knight h6, queen h5, the knight on h6 doesn't have a g pawn to defend itself. So there's some good options here. Every minor piece has been developed except the dark squared bishop, but that's going to develop once we destabilize the g pawn. Hello, shirts are rare. Are you ready to sleep for a little bit? Hey, Zach. I don't see any drawback with h4. If I'm going to calculate everything, it's like h4. If g takes h4, we can take back with a rook there because it's defended by the knight. And then f4 is for sure a goner. h4, h6 doesn't work because after h takes g5, the file's pinned. Black cannot recapture. And we've explored g4 already. Knight e5 is going to really put pressure on f7. Besides the fact that both the g and the f4 pawn will be hanging. So 3 pawns are hanging in that variation. You want to visualize with me right now? Pawn to h4. Black responds. Pawn from g5 to g4. And then we follow up with knight e5. And in that position, f7 is being targeted by the knight on e5 and the bishop on bishop on c4. The pawn on g4 has no defenders. The pawn on f4 has no defenders. So we'll have a nice menu there of pawns to capture. Which pawn are you looking for there, Iceberger? Do you like the f7 pawn, the f4 pawn, or the g4 pawn? We have many options. There's one more move to consider, and that is the move that might get you banned from Ben Feingold's channel. It's the f6 move. f6 opens up this diagonal, but it does defend the pawn temporarily. So let's figure out what to do after h4, f6. I do see something pretty unpleasant. Try to follow with me. h4, f6. H takes g5. F takes g5, black responds. And in that position, I want to play knight to Eric 5. Knight e5. And there I'm threatening, once I get the knight on e5, we're threatening knight g6 because the h file is open, or the pawn on h7 is pinned. Knight f7 traps the rook. Queen h5 check has its own threats. So it looks like that comes with multiple ways of winning the rook. That line looks pretty good. h4, g4, knight e5 is killer. h4, f6, h4, h6. We got that all accounted for. And remember, the goal here is that Not Based and the Iceberger, two lads that have stayed up too late. They're trying to fall asleep. And my goal is to, make sure they fall asleep with the stream on. I think if I accomplish that, it kind of means I slept with them. So I can increase my count. The amount of people I've slept with will have gone up considerably. And remember, with the queen on e7, one of the reasons I played knight c3 was, besides defending e4, knight d5 is going to be extremely unpleasant at some point. That's thank you for the feedback, JFWL. I'll consider it for sure. Points are points, and I'm going to play h4 here. Hey, thank you for the raid. Thank you for the raid. It's morning here in Canada, and we're actually just going back to bed with a nice rapid game. The goal is to put the good viewers of this channel to sleep. But after h4, I don't see a good move. If I were to guess, I think f6 is very probable because black's already indicated they want to put up resistance when it comes to the f4 pawn. So I think f6 is, I think the two moves that are going to be played, it's either going to be f6 or g4, if I were to guess. If I were to gamble. And maybe I am a gambling guy because the Flames won last night. So maybe we are in a gambling mood. See? There's a lot of moves that a 1200 is capable of coming up with. I'd say narrowing it down to two moves is pretty good. But we've already had this calculated. HG5, FG5, knight e5, bringing the knight into the game. and introducing some tactics on the F file and the H file. This and that. I'm gonna take. Now, white's moves are not forced. If f takes g5, which has just been played, I'm guessing knight d5 is probably winning in some way. I don't think the queen can really afford to continue being promiscuous, running around taking my pawns, but knight e5 looks so natural, introducing all these threats, allowing the queen to join the party. Allowing my queen to join the party. Let's go knight e5. Queen h5, knight g6, knight f7. They're all possibilities here. And I'm liking the way this is looking already. So we have a few options. d6 has just been played. My opponent only spent 16 seconds there. Queen h5 check. Looks very promising. Knight g6 right away. Looks very promising. Knight f7 looks very promising. Lot of options here. Now, usually when you have a bunch of moves that are winning, you just want to pick one that you're comfortable with. You're not going to be graded poorly for finding a winning move. That's not as winning as the other move. There's a threshold. So being up a queen as opposed to a queen and a pawn. Being up a queen is fine. Being up a rook instead of being up a queen. That might also still be enough, depending on your level. But we'll see. We're gonna find one thing that helps for that is out of all the options, which ones allow the least amount of counterplay. That might be a metric. Counterplay allowed. Activity. So if I can win a material here and black is still left with pretty much no options, I'll feel pretty good about that. I'm just waking up here, my friend Dave. I'm helping other people go to sleep, like Everett and Aiden. We're doing some 30-minute chess, and this was an impromptu stream. Put the boys to bed. So one of the lines that I'm looking at right now is Queen h5 check, King d8. It looks like a full rook after knight f7. Queen h5 check, King f8. There's knight g6. Forking the king, rook and queen. So black has to capture, and then queen takes h8. Oh, we better turn that off. Oh, how do I turn Slack off? That's going to wake everybody. Oh my goodness. I just compromised the entire show by having Slack on. Oh boy, I apologize. So Queen h5 check, King f8, Knight g6 check, hg6, Queen takes rook. Threatening checkmate on g8 because this bishop's bearing down on that knight, and then maybe bishop e6. So we're trying to figure out how we can win the most. Queen h5 check, King f8, Knight f7, bishop takes d4. Got to calculate that as well, because then the bishop on d4 defends the rook on h8, but then there's knight takes h8, bishop takes h8, and queen takes h7. So there's stuff to calculate there as well. But that's after queen h5. So knight f7 right away. the d4 pawn's not hanging. That's pretty tempting. It's queen check, and then knight f7, d4 hangs. Without queen h5, it doesn't. And if that's a full rook, it's a full rook. It's not necessarily a full rook, but looks pretty darn good. We can keep this queen h5 check in our pocket. I don't think we can go wrong with knight f7, and it's 8 a.m. You can forgive me for not calculating everything, but after knight f7, pretty sure this rook is falling. And we still have queen h5 check in our pocket. Appreciate the subs. There's a few subs I haven't called out. I'm just waiting till after the game while we put a few people to sleep. Enthusiasm in my voice would not pair well. So I wonder, Black's gonna play bishop e6 or just try to defend, hold on to the rook. Are there any sleepers here? Where's Everett and Aiden? I think we're doing well in this position. We have the queen is going to come in on h5. Hello, the iceberger. What do you want to play after queen f6? Let's assume black plays queen f6, trying to hold on to some material. I'm predicting the moves again, bishop e6. But here I think it's pretty straightforward. Bishop takes bishop, queen takes bishop, knight takes rook, and we're up a full rook. Unless there's a good in-between move that cannot be resisted, and I just don't see that. So I'm going to take on e6. I'm anticipating that I'm going to win a rook, which means trades are encouraged. So trading off the bishops and then winning the rook is better than winning the rook. It's going to accelerate things towards the endgame sooner. The iceberger has abandoned Eric for a hot tub stream. Do you have proof of this? Ambadan, that's damning if you have any proof. I think I'm gonna just grab the rook. Why not, right? Knight takes rook. Queen h5 check is still an opportunity. h7 is hanging, and here, yeah, I think we can get away with this. Oh, I almost played queen h5 immediately. It's very tempting. But rook takes pawn might be the better move. To throw that in first. So one of the lines I'm looking at is rook takes h7, bishop takes d4, knight d5, and black's pretty much run out of moves. Where's the iceberger? Might as well bring this rook in. The queen is going to come. And in the meantime, it's still defending d4. Plus, by taking h, yeah. Because the alternative is to check and try to take this way, but technically something could go wrong with all of my pieces on the king side. So we're going to start with rook takes h7 and prepare knight d5. I do like, this is a very good rook, right? Defends the knight, has control of the h-file, but also puts significant pressure on the 7th rank. So that seems fairly intuitive to me. Not based. What's our next move as white? There's 2 people looking to fall asleep, and we have not heard them check in a while. So I'm hoping they've fallen asleep, and I'm expecting resistance. I think they're just being nice. Usually it takes a bit longer to fall asleep. Queen h5 check is coming, and then I'm going to bring the knight back into the game. You know, queen h5, king slides over, knight f7 check potentially, or all the pieces are coming. Now, I did mention this bishop never got in the game so far because black has stubbornly defended the f4 pawn at the cost of losing everything else. That was a trade-off. So this bishop did not join the game. It's going to be left at home, most likely. But black ended up losing significant material trying to hold on to that pawn. So, I mean, that's a trade I'll make any day. Any day. Usually the rook, it's only move 14. I mean, it's not very common to have a rook penetrate so early in the game. So no complaints from me. And now black's thinking, and I don't see anything. I would consider playing c6 just because I'd be scared of knight d5, but we're just playing down an entire rook. So let's start the timer here. And it's probably been at least 10 minutes since we last heard from any of them, but just to be safe, 10 more minutes. And if we haven't heard from the lads, you know what's happened. The seduction has worked. The stepbrothers are asleep. We got 10 minutes here. 8:20 Calgary time. Hopefully I can wrap this game up in about 10 minutes. And we'll take attendance to see who is here. We do have an interesting question from the chat. Here I am in the kitchen, minding my own business, making breakfast. Roommate had a one-night stand last night, and they both walk out of the downstairs shower into the kitchen. Do you ignore or intentionally acknowledge them to make things uncomfortable? Just depends the kind of mood you're in. I usually acknowledge. I usually make conversation myself. That might be a Canadian thing, or just, you know, I like to troll people, you know, just see what happens. But definitely make some small talk with the guest for sure. I definitely think we acknowledge here. We definitely acknowledge. There's only one correct answer, I think, the more I think about it. If you don't acknowledge, it's going to be like chess. You're going to be thinking about what you could have done. Yes, you talk to the guest. You don't need to acknowledge the roommate. You talk to the guest. Exactly. Alrighty. Black played knight e7. Can't complain about that move. It develops a piece and gives the king a little bit of cover on the 7th. However, I have something in mind. Begins with queen h5 check. King f8 is going to be met by rook f7. King d8 might be met by knight f7, and I can bring the knight in with tempo. King d7. I have knight d5 as a move, but might have something else that I'm exploring. I got some ideas. When you're up a rook, you also have the opportunity to trade down by making unfavorable trades. So I'm up a rook and I can trade all the pieces off the board. But I lose 2 pawns. So like, I just lose 2 pawns in the equation. Everything's even, but in the end, black has won 2 extra pawns. I'd probably do it because, you know, the rook should beat the 2 pawns almost any day of the week in the end game. But it might be a situation like I'm up a rook. I can give up a rook for, you know, I got a rook and 2 pieces versus 2 pieces. Maybe I want to give up the rook for one of the remaining pieces. And I'm confident I can win up a piece instead of up a rook, because I'm closer to the end game. It really depends, but I'm not opposed to giving this rook up under the right circumstance. Here, rook takes e7 would be great if king takes e7 was forced. It still might be great as it is, but queen takes is a possibility. Knight d5 is very tempting. I'm looking at queen takes d4, rook takes e7 check. If king moves back, queen e8 is going to be checkmate immediately. But if king c6, we got to keep looking. Queen e8 check. King c5. I think I have a better version of this. I think I have a better version of this. It's going to start with queen h3 check. One reason I like queen h3 is that the king makes a run for the queen side. I can play d5 check, king c5. And now because my queen is back a little closer to the initial position, I can swing the queen over to d3 and it looks like we're almost at checkmate. The king goes this way, the queen's going to be in a good spot to challenge. So that's why I preferred this check over g4, maybe other checks. Because I do see situations where I want to move to d3. Knight d5 was winning. Just in case you're curious, there's a lot of winning moves. You're up a rook. Gonna have different opinions there, but this move might not require much more work. Three more minutes until it's half past. So right now, the line I'm looking at is king c6, d5 check. The king can't go back to d7. It can only go to c5. And then it's all about just trying to find the checkmate there. And I believe it's forced checkmate, pretty much. King c6, d5 check, king c5, knight a4 check. With king d4, there's queen d3 check, king e7, followed by rook takes e7 check, king e7 there, queen e7 there is forced, and then you have knight g6. Wins the queen. Outright. I'm happy to see this move because I have something in mind. That's something. Does knight d5 win? It does win. But I like rook takes e7 check. King cannot capture because we've already established there's knight d5 forking the king and the queen. And after queen takes e7, I'm going to go knight d5. And I don't think there's a safe space on the board for the queen. That doesn't lead into like checkmate. So queen takes e7, knight d5. I don't believe that queen has any safe squares that don't result in like checkmate or losing the queen. So for example, queen e7, knight d5, queen d7, there's knight f6. Queen e7, knight d5, queen e4, there's knight f6. You can't go to f7 because the knight on h8. So what does that mean? Well, if we look at knight d5 after queen e7, is there any move that black can play that prevents white's queen from entering the e6 square? e6 is a key square, c8 as well, but I can just move the queen to e6. That looks like it's checkmate. That definitely looks like it's checkmate. Visually, it's like the king has almost no pieces around it, and queen e6 should be a pretty strong follow-up. At the minimum, I believe white's picking up the queen right now. So queen g7 is the move I wanted to hear. Heartburn, because that actually drops the soap in one move. Queen g7 runs into a very, very sexy checkmate on c8. And the king can't go up at all. I'm hoping for that. That's pretty aesthetic. But I'm expecting f8 or d8 to add a little bit of resistance. Queen f7. Do we take the queen? No, we play queen c8. So the queen on h3 was a pretty multi-purpose move. I had this diagonal in mind. I had the h-file in mind, but also had the idea of swinging the queen over in case black's king made a run for the queen side. This move probably prolongs the game the most, so winning the queen may not actually be satisfactory in this situation. Knight f6 wins the queen. I'm just hoping there's something prettier than that. I might just relent and take that queen. Queen h5 is definitely winning, but I don't want to be too fancy. Because the average person in this channel could very much use a queen, as opposed to not taking the queen and being fancy. I think most people here are carrying some very skinny ratings around, and they could use the extra material. Gonna grab. We're still gonna find a checkmate. Let's check here. And if king e6 or king f6, we have queen f7 checkmate. Double check that it is checkmate. Check. Defended by the knight. King can't go there, there. Because of the pawn on d4. Perfect. The necessary amount of time has elapsed as well to figure out if the two patients, patient A and patient E, have fallen asleep. Alrighty. Good game. We're not going to play any KO stuff here. We got people sleeping. But the question is, where is the iceberger and where is not based? The two people that were trying to sleep. Somebody's sleeping in my apartment? No. I'm doing it remote right now. It's been a long time. Let's check the logs. The last comment from the iceberger was at 8:02, so 32 minutes ago. Alrighty. I think it's safe to say that 32 minutes, the person's definitely asleep or just playing along with it. But they promised they would put in the effort to fall asleep. And then the next one is not based. 7:53. So that's 42 minutes ago. I think it's safe to say the mission was accomplished. We're experimenting with tier 3 benefits, and one of them is occasional ASMR sessions. I think I passed the challenge. I think we got it going. They're both done. Now I can call out the subs. This was just a rapid game.